sometimes I get so frustrated that I'm like, let's go fail. And I'll say that. Let's go. Like, let's just start making moves. If we're pretty sure this is the direction we need to go and we're not going to get any more confirmation on that, then let's stop talking about it or go do it.
It's another Wednesday, which means another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Deemer. And I got a question to start today off with. What's the real difference between a contractor who just moves dirt and one who builds a thriving, recognizing business? Well, today we're going to dive into that question with someone who's doing it right. My guest is Trent Harris. He's the owner of Blue Collar Contractors. And he's not just running equipment, he's building a brand, standing out in his market and leveraging online presence to grow his business. In fact, his TikTok subscribers just surpassed 20,000. So if you've ever wondered how to take your excavation business to the next level, you're going to want to stick around for this conversation. Before we jump in, though, we do have a quick word from our sponsors. Let's face it, running a business isn't just about the work. It's about making sure people know you do the work. So if you need attachments that actually last, stop wasting money on the junk that breaks after a few jobs. Skid Steer Nation brings you American-made, heavy-duty skid steer attachments that do the job right. Whether you're grading, clearing, or moving materials, we've got what you need. No cheap imports, just quality gear that makes you money. Go check it out at skidsteernation.com. And gentlemen, you guys know your craft. We know how to make sure people see you. At Throttled Up Marketing, we don't just get you leads, we build you a brand, from getting your business ranked on the first page of Google to making sure your website and online presence actually brings in customers. We handle the marketing so you can focus on the work. If you're ready to stop being invisible online and start getting noticed by the right clients, go visit getthrottledup.com today. Both Skid Steer Nation and Get Throttled Up are in the show notes, so just expand those and you guys can click on the link there. All right, let's get back to the bread and butter of why we're actually here today, man. Trent Harris, Blue Collar Contractors, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show today.
Man, I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. Glad you reached out.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So you're north of Tulsa just by a little bit. I couldn't even begin to pronounce either one of the towns that you're located in.
You're not alone there. Yes, Oologah and Talala. We can always tell in
Oologah and Talala.
Yep, I'm actually in Oologah. The yard's here in Talala, right next to Oologah. Yeah, that's where Zach Bry. I don't know if you heard of him. That's where he's from. So
he's from Oologah.
Yep, he kind of went to school with him. He kind of put it on the map where some people have heard of it now, but not me.
You actually went to school with Zach?
Yes, so he was 2 years older than me. He graduated with my brother. So.
Huh. What a small world, man.
I'm telling you.
I mean, he was just on a rising ascension path and everything was amazing. And then that damn girlfriend from Barstool Sports had to put a sputter in that rise.
I don't know what's what. Like, some people have asked me because I knew him. I'm like, I don't know who's what or what's happening.
Well, I mean, if those numbers are right that she's spitting out, and you're signing an NDA or a gag order for $5 or $10 million, you didn't do something minor.
Yeah. Who knows? It's so beyond me. I'm like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I hear you, man. So, yeah, you're a unique breed, man. You've got a couple different businesses. I love that you've incorporated the Blue Collar brand into all of them. Obviously, I'm going to assume your prime bread and butter is Blue Collar Contracting or Contractors, but you also have Blue Collar Power Wash or Pressure Wash?
Yeah, so that was kind of a spinoff. So far, I like you said, running everything under that name to where it just helps with the recognition, and puts it all under that same umbrella. It's something that we didn't really push for. Like you said, the contractors is the primary. I mean, that's where all the attention goes. These other ones always end up kind of on the back burner. But a few months after starting that company, we ended up with a good sized contract that's a weekly deal, year round, winter, all seasons. And it's helped with the cash flow tremendously. That for the expense that it takes to run the pressure washing operation, it's the most profitable, by ratio, by a long shot. The issue is with the contractor company being the primary, company, we just rob all the cash flow from the pressure washing company to keep this going and to continue to expand. So it's if we get calls on that and we can fit it in, if we've got guys that need hours that are just kind of hanging around working on stuff or whatever, we'll go bust that out if we can. But it's mostly that main contract and then our own stuff when we need it.
Yeah. So which one came first?
Well, it's funny you talk about those businesses, because originally there was Blue Collar Lawn Care. I dreamt up this name with a buddy in the high school library freshman year. We're like, man, I couldn't even drive yet. And it's like, Blue Collar, that's a cool name. So we started Blue Collar Lawn Care. We had some cheesy little hats that we had made before they were as easy to get hats, and that's kind of where it all started. And then got a skid steer and just kind of, I'll never forget the day that I was like, I'm not going to mow anymore. And I wonder, it's a whole other deal. Sometimes I wonder if I should go back, especially talking with my buddy Trebo. I'm like, maybe we need to reconsider, but we transitioned from lawn care into, more landscaping and stuff, and then kind of pivoted into more construction.
Yeah. So right now, like, you're doing a lot of demolition work, site clearing, land prep, site prep.
Yes. Yeah. So we, it's been a journey for sure. We do everything on the residential side now, from, just any sort of excavation and grading, pads, driveways, ponds, and then all the way to full scale, commercial site work, and demo. So
yeah.
A little bit of all of it.
Is your wife part of the business also, or does she do her own thing?
So she stays home with the kids. I commend her. She's the reason we're able to do this. I mean, no doubt, because right out of high school, so I had my first daughter when I just turned 18. I was a junior. It was the very end of my junior year. And she was working. I was working. I'm working at a gas station, mowing on the side. There was also Blue Collar Diesel that came right after the lawn care. So we had the diesel shop, the lawn care. I was doing tree work with a buddy. I worked at a distribution center on the weekends. I mean, it was just full tilt. And with her trying to work as well, and we're trying to find babysitters, and I had so much faith in what I could do with the company that I finally was like, hey, I don't know how we're going to do it yet, but you stay home. This is your primary role. And she was all for it. She wanted to be with the kids.
Yep.
My second one came along and was like, this is your priority. You handle this. Let me try to make this work. And it really freed me up to worry about less and just go, And so she, as far as with the company, she's doing more now with it, more of the office side and the scheduling and the answering the phone and the office phone and that type of deal. But in the beginning, it was she had enough going on at home that I was like, let me just handle all this. So now I'm starting to kind of incorporate her back into it, where she can take some of the load as well.
That's awesome. And then how many employees do you have?
So right now, just 2 full-time. I've got 2 more that are wanting to start. We're just waiting on weather. We just got some snow here. We're getting some stuff finally lined up. Schedule's picking back up. We just can't go to work yet. So
yeah, I saw your Facebook page, and you had a picture of the skid steers out in a parking lot pushing snow, and you're like, remind me who the hell talked me into this again.
I'm telling you, I swear. So we're in Oklahoma, and I got some buddies up north, and that's a huge part of their business. But for us, like, we're not set up for this. I mean, we're using whichever dirt bucket we hate the most. We're burning cutting edges off. We've at least got 4-wheel drives and cab machines now, because used to we were in the old open cab and a 2-wheel drive, trying to get somewhere to push snow. So we're set up for it for our area, but every time I do it, I'm like, I swear I'll never do this again. And then,
right,
a couple of years later, we get that big snow down here again, and like, it never fails. We can't go to work. It's too wet to do anything. And like right now, we're waiting on some money from a couple of different commercial projects. So accounts are low. We already spent. That's something nobody talks about. We've already spent so much. We didn't finance any of that. We didn't outsource any of the financing on those projects. So my suppliers are all paid. We're waiting on our expenses and our profit to come back from those projects going into winter. And it gets to where, whatever we can do to make a dollar to keep the cash rolling to get back to the busy season, you go into late fall with so much money in the account that you're like, oh, we'll be good. We can finally stop for a second and breathe. But then you dump all that money into getting projects done, and you're 30, 60 days out on getting that money.
Yeah, I remember my buddies were finishing their second year of business, and they had a goal to go into winter with 80K in the bank to survive the winter month. And I was like, make it 110. And they're like, what? And I'm like, trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fact. I mean, that's really close to our goal as well. But let's say you go, for sake of numbers, you go do $100,000 project, and we haven't had a line of credit. We've discussed it a little bit, but we're fronting all the money on these projects. So, just say you got 60 grand out of pocket to do that project, but now you got 20 grand left in the account, and you're waiting on 100 to come back on that. So
yeah.
And with monthly expenses, we're dropping, well, let's say 10 grand a month. So now you can survive 2 months if you're not making money.
Right.
And,
and that's if there's no breakdowns, no additions, no anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's just set expenses. So if you are working, you got payroll, fuel, repair. Yeah, when we start getting tight, I start talking to, my mechanic and my guys. Like, I'll start quantifying our operating money by how many breakdowns can we afford? Like, hey, we're tight now. We lose an engine, we're not fixing it right now. Like, we can't have F-ups. Like, stuff has got to go as smooth as we can right now to get back to where we have money in the account where we can reinvest.
Yeah, I tell you what, going back to that line of credit, my personal views, I think a line of credit's a terrible idea for an up-and-coming business because you look at it as a crutch.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as you get more established, like especially in your point of view, like I would look at it as a safety net. Like I'd get that line of credit from the bank when I don't need it, and the bank can see I don't need it, and you're just like, listen, the last thing I want to do is need it and not have it.
Absolutely.
Like get it set up, whether it's 10, 50 grand, and don't touch it. But it's just that it becomes that safety net for that day that maybe you do 2 commercial projects and it takes you way lower than you thought it would, and the net 30 days doesn't going to work for you, or one slow pays to net 45, and
that's I completely agree, because I can remember right where I was standing in the soil yard over here whenever this happened, and I started looking at accounts and doing all the math, and I'm like, this is bad. Like, we haven't been in this bad of a spot to this scale, which comes with growing. We went from where, $6 grand was the most we had in the account, to where now if there's $6 grand in the account, we can't sleep. Like something, it's bad,
Right.
And we've just got too much stuff coming out. And that's when I was talking to my 2 different banker buddies, and we're discussing all this. And like you said, I was at a point of no power. I'm going to the bank like, hey, pull us out of this. I'm like, I don't want to negotiate in these terms. This isn't. It's like, let's find a way. So we started moving money around from our savings and different holes we had. And I'm anti-selling stuff that makes money. But at the end of the day, we could liquidate some assets if we had to and get out of the hole. But we've never had to, knock on wood. If we get that tight, we just find a way. And I've got some good buddies that are been doing this longer, that have been in these situations plenty, with more zeros on the end, and they're always a huge help. Like Trebo out in Arkansas that I can call, and it's like it's a joke to him, which makes me feel better in a way. He's like, oh, that ain't no problem. What are you worried about? I'm like, what am I worried about? Like, we're going to lose 100 grand.
Wait till you're waiting on 7 figures.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Trebo, always give him a hard time because, I'll call him with some sort of issue, or he'll call me right in the middle of, what's going on? I'm like, this, we blew a tire and this light went out, and he'll just laugh. And I'm like, I gotta go. I don't have time for your stuff. I'm like, how can you laugh at this? He's like, dude, whatever issue he had that day was 15 times worse than mine, and it's every day. He's like,
right.
I don't know what you want me to tell you. He's like, you blew a tire, we blew 7 today, and we blew 9 yesterday. You know what? We've got a dump truck turned over, and we just blew an engine in this. Like, what do you want? Some sympathy from me? And I'm like, all right, you win. Like, you're right. It'll be all right. Like,
Yeah. I love
just
that you surrounded yourself with people that are like 1 to 3 steps ahead of you though in your process, in your progress, because you don't learn from people at the same level or behind you.
that from a personal standpoint as well. That's been one of my crucial beliefs in life in general, man. You are who you're around, like that, and that's proven. That's scientific. Like, you are who you are around, and if I can't meet these people and surround myself with them, I'm listening to books, or I'm watching video. Like, I want to think how they think. I want to see their side,
Yep.
and that's where TikTok. I laughed at that. I was like, I'm not messing with that in the beginning. Well, then we end up on there, and it changed everything. I mean, like, I've got so many key mentors from there, just from building, like you said, building our online presence, building a brand, and kind of seeing these other creators. And we went to Con Expo in Vegas, and that's where the only reason I went to that was because of TikTok. Me and a group of 6 or 7 buddies who have never met. We only knew each other from the app. Got a house
Yeah.
together in Vegas for the Con Expo.
It's the coolest thing in the world, isn't it? When you like plan an Airbnb with guys that you know, but you've never met.
Yes, it was before we left, my wife was like, "You're going to go stay in these house and stay the night with these people that you've never met." I was like, "Yeah, I hope, hopefully none of them are chainsaw murderers. I don't know. We're going to find out though. It's, we're invested now."
I was in like this men's group, and it was, they're all business owners, but it was, we spent a lot of time on like our personal well-being in addition to our business, a lot of online group meetings and all that. And in September one year, like they did an event, and like 7 of us booked an Airbnb together, and we had never met in person. And shit, we were up till 2, 3 in the morning talking philosophy, lifestyle, business. And it's just, you leave with like a very full cup. Like your cup is very full after a weekend like that.
Absolutely, because like you said, you get around like-minded people who are at or above where you want to be. There's no comparing that to anything. I mean, it's just gas on the fire, and the more you can surround yourself with those people, and that's where, being in the right place at the right time. That's where I met Trebo in Vegas, and a couple months later we had the Trebo Expo, and went out there, and we're like, we don't want to wait 3 years for another Con Expo. We'll kind of have our own little deal. And there was, I don't remember, not very many of us. It was that core group, and then whoever showed up from TikTok. And then he had another one last year, the second one, and it was 10 times bigger. Everybody heard about it.
Wow.
And it's actually in April. Like, I'm counting down the days. It's just such a good time to get around, like you said, get around like-minded people. And Trey is how we ended up in the commercial group. We went out there for that. He had some GCs come in and talk to us, and I kind of realized, like, I'm just waiting around for someone to call.
Is he that older guy that's always in the office or outside or no?
Yeah, he posts like he's the redneck from Arkansas is what I call him. He's got the aviator shades, and which I had these before I knew Trey, for the record. No, Trey Bohannon, he's just as good as it gets. He's in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and he posts about every day, I think, just talking, just giving advice and how he started or what to do in different positions and that type of deal. And his TikTok is Trebo Dirt. I'm not sure what he's at now. He was at like 40,000 when I met him, and he's well over 100,000 followers on TikTok now.
Wow.
And he's just one that I can call, and he just helps me out. And he's, the way I look at it, he's fast forwarded, and a lot of those guys have fast forwarded our company by leaps and bounds. I mean, we're easily 3 or 4 years ahead of where we would be if it wasn't for going to Con Expo and meeting these people and learning. And everybody talks about hard work to grow a company, and that's a given. Like that's a prerequisite, right, to getting somewhere. But learning, like, people don't put near enough time to surrounding themselves with the right people and trying to learn everything they can about business, finances, how to stay sane through the process is a big one for me. And try to still be with the family and still grow the company and just all those things. There's so much to learn.
Yep.
I think people have to focus on that.
Yeah, I just did a consulting call this morning with a gentleman, and he knew his hard numbers, but he had never broken them down to figure out like what his profit margins needed to be, his overhead percentages, and all that. So we ran through all these and built some spreadsheets for him to help calculate and like give him some visibility. And then we're like, hey, this is the number you need to do every year in order to hit the revenue goals and the profit goals you want. And he's like, holy shit. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, you need to do 200, you need to do 125 projects at your average project cost in 180 days. He's like, ooh, I'm like, so either your project number's too low or, so we were able to work through all that. And then it was like, yeah, and if you're closing at a 60% rate, then you need to have 250 conversations or estimates or some sort of opportunity to bid a project a year. And he was just like, holy shit. And we just broke it down. I'm like, you need to have one quality estimate or one quality conversation every workday. He's like, well, that's easy. I'm like, but again, the power of breaking those big numbers down.
Man, that's something we have not been. It's I don't know. I get so obsessed with numbers and money, and like I'm just playing. I've taught myself how to build a spreadsheet, so now that that's I'm constantly trying to figure it out, but I don't know those numbers like I should. I'm working on those, but I think you're exactly right. Just with you breaking that down, like the more
I'll
you
tell you
can
what, Trent,
know.
the easiest way to do it, and it's because you have to have a starting point. If you haven't done it yet, like you're going to spend months trying to figure out the perfect way to do it. It's just like work. Just do it, then modify it later.
Yeah. Yep.
So I always say, if your business was closed for 30 days and you never moved a piece of equipment and you never did one single job, how much in bills would go out that month?
So that's where we've started. That's I've got a spreadsheet.
Just that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, and it's just like buying this equipment, like maybe I shouldn't have bought, in hindsight's 2020. It's like, maybe we shouldn't have bought that. We should have done this or whatever. But Trey actually said this, not that long, something along those lines of like, yeah, we haven't bought the right stuff at the right time or whatever, but I have no regrets on that because it's got us here. I don't want analysis paralysis and sit around for, well, what do we do next? I want to have the foresight to make, sound decisions, but they're not all going to be perfect. I mean, just move. I'll get so frustrated trying to think about stuff that I'm like, just move and we'll figure it out. Sometimes you got to, and that's the same on the spreadsheets where.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
in fact, you know what? I just yesterday talked to, cause like we're growing this marketing agency, Throttled Up, and it's growing twice as fast as I thought it would. So we're bottlenecking in certain processes, visibility, and all the different clients. I'm just like, we're overwhelmed a little bit because it just got all thrown in at one time. And I called my buddy who sold a marketing agency for over 7 figures. And I was just like, hey, here's where I'm at. Here's the issues I'm having. Here's how we're handling the problems. And I already knew the answer. I just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And I just like, and I needed somebody that had done it to tell me, he's like, no, you need to invest in a project management software because the pipeline you're using for fulfillment management isn't made for that. And you're never going to have, I was like, damn it, I knew the answer.
Yeah. But I think
sometimes if you have that gut feeling of what's next, just go find somebody to reassure you with that gut feeling, because it's if you don't do it, you're just going to be pissed 6 months later because you're just behind schedule.
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah, I think you're smart like we talked about, for reaching out to someone who's been there. Hey, what do I do next? Because it gets hard to progress, And
yeah, you can't see the forest through the trees when you're standing in it.
Absolutely. And yeah, getting that reassurance from somebody who's done it, that's like, pull the trigger. What are you waiting on? Or stay small. Yeah. That's Trey said, I keep going back to Trey, but he said something that like around that, on those lines that stuck with me. But he's always, do it or go stock bread at Dollar General. That's his number one.
We got to get Trebo on the show, man. I don't know. We got to have to introduce me to this guy.
Yeah, he actually just started he did the Con Expo podcast, and then he went on the Blue Collar Business Nation or something. I think it's Blue Collar Business Nation. So I'm sure he'd do it. You need to reach out to him. He's
awesome.
He's a good one. But yeah, I put that on the BC Print Co. website. It was like, and put Trebo Nerd under it. Do it or go stock bread. Yeah, and he's been there for those hard conversations for me where, like you're saying, I know what I should do, but like this is going to be tough, and just knowing that, like, okay, this is the next step. Do it, or you don't have to. Sell off some machines. Reduce your payroll and just stay local and just find your way through it. I'm like, that's not me. I know. So then go do it.
And then he's right. Like you've got two choices, and if one choice doesn't fit with your lifestyle or your desires, then you only have one choice.
Yeah, exactly. And like I've talked to guys even locally that have done that have been there, that have had 20 trucks running and been on these big sites, and some of them are like, man, it wasn't worth it. I sold back down or whatever. And I'm like, I can always sell back down. Like people are.
And I tell you what, I'll guarantee you, the guys that say it wasn't worth it expanded so fast, and they never built the processes or the systems. And they were as the owner, they were the bottleneck in numerous areas of that business, guaranteed.
I don't agree with what they're saying at all, but I weigh it in where I'm like, well, maybe I don't know. I was a diesel mechanic a couple years ago. Who knows what's going to come next? But that's always been I don't even want to think about that. I can always sell back down. It's easy to get smaller, like I can drop right back down. We can start declining clients and go back down.
But a lot of guys micromanage, right? You're building your baby and they have a hard time delegating.
That has been my kryptonite. And everybody close to me knows it.
Why is that?
Just, I'm so OCD, I guess, on every little detail. And I've come a long ways in the last 6 months, and it's because I've been forced to, just with growth and being on these commercial sites, and like I can't do it all. I've tried. I'm full time at the fire department as well, so 24/48. So when I leave there, I'm trying to do all of this other stuff, and another one of those things where I'm like, either do it and figure out the process and get a system in place to begin to train and delegate, or stay the same size. And that's what's kind of forced me. And it's went great. I mean, the two guys have done awesome at taking those reins and running with it. And, like being in a skid steer, for example, Caleb, my main guy right now, does so well. Like I don't even get in a machine. Like if a skid steer is on site and there's skid steer work to be done, you handle that. And now that we've brought in another guy, I have him overseeing. It's a real small step, but we're headed in the right direction now, where I can just send them and.
So I don't know where you're at, like what systems or where you kind of micromanage. And to me, it's like, this is just an example, but like one of the guys we worked with years ago, Tyler, he was having that same problem where everybody was coming to him and he was the center point of the whole business. And if he wasn't at 100% every day, things slowed down, things broke, jobs got delayed because he was the bottleneck. So what we did was we basically just started and implemented, we call them tailgate talks morning and night. And even if he wasn't there, it was just like a phone call or a video call, but like it was a tailgate talk. You walk the job site, and instead of him outlining how the job was going to be done that day, he made the lead foreman tell him how he would outline the job.
Tell them what needs to be done, not how to do it.
So what you're doing is you're making your employees think.
Yeah.
And half the time they're going to actually have a better way to do it because they're doing it every day and you're not anymore, right? So what you do, instead of telling them how to do it, you're asking them how they would do it. And then when they say it the wrong way, you can use it as a coaching, teaching moment to be like, hey, I understand why you wanted to do it that way, but this is, in the past we did that, it failed. Here's why we changed it to this method, And then you can be like, hey, we need to be at this point at lunchtime and this point at the end of the day, right? And then at the end of the day, you have another tailgate talk, and it's what sucked, what broke, what could we improve on, and like all the negatives, right? Get all the negatives out, and then you finish with what did we fucking kill today? Because you want to leave that meeting on a high note.
Absolutely, I love that, and it also I'm reminded of a few different books that have also kind of said the same thing, but it that gives them skin in the game. I can't think of the word. I had it there for a second, but it gives them ownership of the process too.
People want ownership and everything, right? Like you want to feel needed, wanted, like your friend to community. If you're in a group of friends that you don't feel connected to, you leave.
Yep.
And then you think about your personal life, right? Like if your wife took the kids and was going to her parents' house and said she'd call you when she got there, and then she forgot to call you, you'd be stressing out because you don't know if she made it or not.
Right.
So and what it gets down to is communication, right? So as an employee, most employees, most of the stress they feel is because there's a communication gap somewhere. And while your thoughts in your head, they just weren't translated properly for them to fully grasp or see or understand it. I'm telling you, it's 90% of issues on job sites is because of communication and a lack of transparency and being on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally buy that. We've seen that.
Yeah. And then the other advice I give guys all the time too is like, man, let's think it's a Monday morning. You've got this big demo job that you're starting, right? You come in hot and you're like, guys, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to go. We got these utility guys coming. This guy's marking this. And they're just like, holy shit. And you're like, come on, what's wrong with you? Like, let's roll. Mm-hmm. You spent the last 3 days over the weekend planning this out over and over, redoing it in their head. And now they're hearing it for the first time and you're upset. They're not responding as if they listened and worked through it for 3 days.
Guilty. 100% guilty. That's spot on. Cause this is all I think about, it's just a constant, what's next. And I've already, that's spot on because I'll dump that on them here at the yard in the morning of, okay, you're going here. This is what and just unload on them. And they're like, I don't.
But again, like you're giving them one piece, right? Like you're going here, not these are the big projects we have to do. These are the arms of the project that need to be completed today. I think you're best suited on project B and you're going to be best suited on A. And if we can get these 3 things accomplished, now they can see the whole picture and they go, I'm bought in.
Right. Yep. I love it.
But if you just tell them go there and go do this, they're just like, whatever, because they don't see the vision. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. That's something that I'm really working on that I knew for a while, but we got through it. I tripled down on whatever I needed to do to make it happen. And, you can only roll around in the gravel till 2 a.m. working on stuff and trying to do everything yourself before you're like,
so many days.
Yeah, exactly. You can only do that for so long before relationships get rocky and it's just not sustainable, especially with growth, because you're only going to be out there later and later. And
going back to us, and going back to Throttle Up Marketing, like I know we need to do this project management software. Like I just know it. So I was like, I don't know any of them inside and out. Like it's going to be a struggle learning and implementing this with anyone we choose. So instead of me just picking one, I just send a message out to our entire team. I'm like, hey guys, we're at a point that we need to implement the software so we have better visibility, task management, deliverabilities. I'm like, have any of you guys ever used any project softwares like these 4 or 5 companies? And which one did you like or not like? And I'll tell you what, 2 of them sent back like these super long messages. And it was for the same software. So I was like, that's the one we're buying because our team already understands it. They took the time to write out this huge message to tell me what they liked about it. And I'm like, why would I go take something else? Why would I implement something different if these guys are investing their time and telling me this is what's worked for us in the past?
Yeah. And if you would have never reached out, you'd be going in blind.
Right. So I had to learn that the hard way too, because I was exactly who you were. I mean, I'm going to guess you're what, 28?
27. I'll be 27. Pretty dang close. I'll be
27. So when I was your age, I was exactly like you were, man. Like I had these crazy ideas and it was go, go, go. And my team couldn't keep up with me. Like I owned bars and restaurants back then. Like I'd come in on a Monday morning. I'm like, dude, we're going to do this crazy promotion. We're going to decorate the place with this. We'll hire this band. We'll do all that. And they're like, oh, when are we doing that? And I'm like, Saturday. And they're like, what? And I'm like, let's go. And it was, like, I was exactly like you were. So like I've walked that path of creating that divide and you basically create chaos because we feel like we thrive in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we burn out because of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem though, for guys like you and I, Trent, the problem is that when we systemize something and remove the chaos, we fucking get bored with it.
Yes. There's a book. I know I keep talking about books. There's one called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
Great book.
It's the best. And dude, it says change. I finished that book, immediately re-listened to it. It's on my goal sheet for this year to listen to it 2 more times. Like I'm obsessed. And every time I listen to it, I gain something else. But it puts you back in that mind state, right? Of like, it's easy to slip back into, the same old thing where if you can keep, I got it on repeat because I'm like, this is what needs to happen next. How can we begin to implement this now? That's why Brandy my wife now has the company phone and is handling more scheduling, because I'm like, I can't, again, we're bottlenecked. I can't do this. So
Yep.
that one's, and he's saying a lot of the same exact stuff you're saying in that book, of just how to go.
Well, I mean, his approach is all about buying back time. But if the underlying message though is just like automate, delegate, eliminate, and then build duplicatable systems and processes so other team members can do it. So if you look at the Slight Edge or the Atomic Habits, buy back your time, it's all about daily disciplines. The small ones make the biggest difference, right? It's the small daily disciplines multiplied and compounded over time make the largest impact. And you can't make that impact if you're always swimming in the muck of running the business every day. So you have to buy back your time so you can implement the disciplines on the small habits to grow your business. It's just
boom. That's it. Yeah. Delegate and then replace, refill that. Don't, like you said, the message isn't to buy back your time to go sit there miserably, but what can, how can you implement that to continue? Yeah. And it's been a game changer.
Yeah. And I'm like, we're not perfect, and I don't think we'll ever be perfect, but we do entrust department heads or employees with responsibilities that they're like, shit, I've never had this much autonomy in my role in other companies. I'm like, oh, we're not other companies, because I don't want to do it. So if I don't want to do it, I have to trust them to do it. Right.
Yep.
But we were on vacation a couple of weeks ago, and the amount of work that was fulfilled for clients, and then the Skid Steer Nation store and all that. And I was like, this is exactly why I trust and build teams and processes, is because making money doesn't have to be dependent on whether I'm available.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's how wealth is built too. If I only have so many hours, so I don't care what I'm getting paid by the hour, I can't really be bought by that number anymore. And I don't mean that in a cool way, but I just understand I'm just going to pay more taxes and put in more hours to, if you offer me $500 an hour, it doesn't affect me like it used to.
It's still just a job.
Yes, exactly. I don't want to be self-employed where I'm an employee like everyone else and I work, but I'm my own boss. That's not why I started this. I want to own the company, and I want the company to run. And every time I go out of town right now, the company stops. And that's where we're really starting to fix those issues to where, hey, I can be gone and you guys can handle this. Call me if you need me. And essentially firing myself from those roles, get in, learn the role, learn how to do it, build that system where the next person replaces me. I'm fired from that. I don't do that anymore. I've got to be ahead. And if I'm keeping these guys in machines, somebody's got to be out lining up their work. It can't be me. It can't be me between 2 and 3 a.m. When I finally am done with the other issues. I've got to be lining this up, and it's been a learning curve, but making myself kind of struggle through it, and it's working. So.
Yeah, and really, whether it be your wife or your lead guy that you have out there, but if to have the guys that get successful as they grow learn that planning out the upcoming jobs in advance, not the day of, and supplying the team with the information of that project up front in advance, because now they have time to digest it.
Yeah.
And then building out, whether it be the list of questions or the checkbox sheet, hey, we've got this demo job out there, right? Are the utilities turned off? Has the gas company been called? So you have a checklist for every demo job that Brandy can do.
Yeah.
Right. She can check all those off, and then you can have another project breakdown of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 that you provide to your guy on the ground. And now those two can communicate, and you're completely out of it, but every information that needs to be covered for that demo project is covered, and nobody's like, well, it wasn't my job, because it's all laid out there.
Absolutely.
Collectively.
Yeah, it's a perfect system. And you can tweak it, right? Like we said, pull the trigger, move forward. We can tweak some of this stuff and figure out what works and what doesn't work, just like any other process.
I built this shitty spreadsheet 3 weeks ago, and I gave it to the team. Hey, this is how we're going to kind of track a few things. And they kind of looked at me, and I'm like, well, you don't like it? They're like, I'm like, good, fix it, because we didn't have anything. So this is version 1. So now you have something to play with.
Yeah. And before
we had zero version.
Yeah. And if you need to throw mine away and come up with your own, at least now you know why this one's not going to work, you know?
Yep.
But
yeah, but
yeah,
you
just
can't
start.
fix something if you don't start with something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like all those YouTube creators, right? They go, your first video is going to suck. Your 10th video is going to suck. It's not till your 100th video that you dial in the way you edit, the look, your lighting. He's like, but you can't get to 100 if you're afraid to make video one.
Yeah, I love it. And that's what builds that, that discipline and motivation to just go, to just move forward. I mean, my biggest fear is to be saying the same thing in 5 years from now or 10 years from now. Whether that's, we need to buy this property, or, if we can get on this, and start doing this, or whatever the case is. That's my number one fear. How long am I going to talk about this? Like, let's go. Sometimes I get so frustrated that I'm like, let's go fail. And I'll say that, like, let's go fail at something. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, I hope we don't, but let's go. Like, let's just start making moves, not ignorantly, not immaturely, just making rash decisions. But like, if we're pretty sure this is the direction we need to go and we're not going to get any more confirmation on that, then let's stop talking about it or go do it. Or go stop dead at Dollar Generals.
So I don't know if you've ever heard the name Sarah Blakely.
Man, that sounds.
I believe she's the first ever American female self-made billionaire. She owned a company called Spanx, those tight little pants that the girls wore.
Yeah.
Like they were shaping pants for underneath your clothes.
Right.
When she grew up as a child, every night at dinner, her father asked her and her brother, what did you fail at today? Not what did you succeed at or what did you do good at? What did you fail at today? Because he goes, if you're not trying new things, then you're not failing. And if you're always comfortable because you're succeeding, that means you're not expanding your opportunities far enough out. So as a child, she learned that it was okay to fail.
And when you can instill that from a young age, and it's the opposite of what we're taught growing up, right? Like
hide your fears.
Failing's bad. Yeah. Failing's bad. Yeah. Don't do that. We get disciplined for failing. And another guy that I've always kind of been obsessed with is Elon Musk, but he's kind of in the limelight now. But before he was, on the stage he's on now, like I always just watch him. He has a really good book about Elon too. But that's a human, arguably, doing that scale. Yeah, doing that scale, and I'm like, this guy built a relandable rocket ship while a car company, while doing, it's unfathomable. And
on a drone watercraft. Like, let's not forget the other part. It's on a drone watercraft. But
yeah, it's insane.
So there's one thing about Elon that really intrigues me, and the concept makes total sense to me. I just can't figure out how to implement it in my life yet. I just probably haven't taken enough time to do it. But he's got that first principle problem solving process that he goes through. Right? Like he'll take the problem and distill it down to the first principle problem, the core problem. Yeah, and he removes everything else. He's like, because half the other problems will be solved out of the way if you solve the one core problem.
It's a really good thing just to keep in the back of your mind, even if you can't implement it like you're saying directly. But I feel like if you keep that in the back of your mind through the different things we go through, where you can start to.
So what I've been trying to do, and it's not perfect because it's all new to me, but like when something arises in my business, I'm like, is this a core problem or a symptom of the core problem? Because I don't want to fix symptoms all day. I want to fix the problem.
Right. Yeah.
And not to beat the dead horse, but like we kept having lack of visibility on different projects and where things were at and which customers needed what done. And I'm like, yeah, we could build a process for every one of those little things. But those were the symptoms because the core problem is we don't have the right software in place to monitor.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can do this one thing so that we know we need.
Why build a process on the website build when the core problem is that we don't have visibility? Like fix that problem, and I bet 80% of those other problems go away.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's
right. So I ask myself, like, is it a symptom of the problem or is this the actual problem?
Yeah. I like that. I'm going to have to keep that more in mind too, going forward.
Because you wouldn't believe like how many problems that will arise in a day, and they're just a symptom of the big problem we're ignoring.
Yeah. Well, I think about that a lot with, like as a metaphor with your body, like I don't want to go around treating headaches and why does my stomach feel or whatever. Like, have I had any freaking water today? Like, when's the last time I ate? Did I sleep last
Yep.
night? Like, I don't want to just sit here and solve, like you said, solve all these symptoms. Like, what's actually wrong here? Let's fix that, and we won't keep going.
And that's
through
the society we live in now, right, Trent? Like, it's like, oh, you having a headache? Take this pill. Oh, your stomach's upset? Take this pill. I'm like, hell no, man.
It's a lot more profitable to solve symptoms than root causes. And that goes for business as well. Obviously the pharmaceutical industry, there's so much money in making you feel better instead of solving it. And I think that's the same with businesses and symptoms and everything, like we can make a lot more money by just, you continue to have these and we can continue to solve, to make them go away, but you're going to always have them because you didn't solve the problem.
And like you keep saying that, and that's really at the end of the day what business and commerce is. Somebody has a problem, you have a solution, they provide you with money for that solution. Not your service, not your mobilization fee, none of that shit. They have a problem, you have a solution, fix their problem, and they will pay you money.
Yeah, that's it. We make it so complicated, but at the end of the day, that's all it is. Like, I have water coming into the front of my house. You have machines and expertise, fix it.
Right.
Okay. That your problem is your house is flooding, or you need a road built, or whatever the case is. You need the site development done so you can. The end goal is to put this building here to make money. Copy that.
Yep.
We can do that. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then just continue to add more additional value on top of that solution. So if like you're building a new roadway for an access to a property, right? Yeah, the problem is they can't access the property. You have the solution by building the road, but we're going to add more value because we're going to outline why the water flow and the erosion control means we're not going to have an issue 3 years down the road. And we're going to make sure this is done in this time frame so that your builder can get in and start building now. Those are the extra value adds that make someone say, you're my guy.
Yes, because I'm not the only one solving that problem. So how can we solve it the most efficient and the most cost effective and
provide the most value?
Right. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
I'll tell you what, the easiest thing I tell guys that to provide more value, especially like the smaller residential projects, not the large commercial ones, but like, do you offer a warranty? They're like, oh no, not at all. I'm like, so if a customer, if you built a road for their property and you rocked it, sub-based it, graded it, and they called you 6 weeks later and said, hey man, we got 2 potholes in the roadway. Would you go fix it? He's like, yeah, I'd go fix it. I'm like, well, then you're already offering a warranty. Just tell them that you offer a warranty. Make them feel good about hiring you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I think that's underrated for sure. For me, the biggest thing that set us apart, one of the biggest things that set us apart from the beginning and still currently is just do what you say you're going to do. Like, there's so many contractors, whether we need, home repair or whatever. If I'm looking for a contractor, and I hear this all the time from our clients, like, well, this guy was going to show up and this guy was supposed to do this. And we're going to make mistakes. Like, stuff's going to go wrong. And the more we delegate, arguably, the more we're going to have kind of some of those hiccups. But stand behind your work and do what you say you're going to do and communicate with them. Like, we can be completely stacked up and behind on work. We don't have time for that job. I'm going to let that customer know, hey, unfortunately, we can't get. And they call me next time because they're like, holy cow, you called back and you can't even get to the project, but you still return my call. Like, yeah, I don't want you waiting on me. Like, I have respect enough to follow up and to make sure everything's where it's supposed to be.
100%. I mean, it's pretty simple. Answer the phone. Be polite, show up when you say you're going to show up. And like, there's so many guys out there that just don't do those 3 things. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got close buddies that I didn't even answer them. I haven't even called that guy back. That was 2 weeks ago. And furthermore, I can't send you work now because you made me look dumb. You. Yeah. Like, if you couldn't have got to them, let them know that. Because now they're never going to call you, and I can't send work your way anymore because, like you said, I don't trust you now. You could have made that 10-second phone call.
Yeah, and then the other point you made was like saying, things are going to go wrong, like we're not perfect, right? And then you have to handle that problem. I will tell you right now, Trent, the local businesses that I support the most, are the ones that had a major issue with me at one point, but they're the ones that went above and beyond in correcting the issue and making it right and communicating with me, because I think your true character is shown in those moments.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to do the right thing when everything's going right, but can you maintain those morals and that discipline when stuff hits the fan? And
let's be honest, it's going to hit the fan, right? So how do you handle that?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
and the companies that handle it properly, they're the ones that I support.
Yep, absolutely. If you start facing adversity, that's, like you said, that's who you really are. It's when shit's not going right.
Yeah. I took my truck in for service. This was about a year ago, and it was a very bad experience. And I got that damn the survey emailed to me. And I was like, I never take time to fill them out. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do it today. And I was very truthful and not like rude. I was just like, it was an awful experience.
Yeah.
And that service manager called me back like middle of the next week. He's like, hey, well, I didn't understand that you were upset. And I'm like, I asked you 4 times to fix that, and you said you couldn't do it. And I'm like, it's like, well, bring your truck back in. We'll get it squared away. I'm like, well, why didn't you fix it last week when you had it? Yeah. So why'd you fill that survey out that way? And I'm like, because of this interaction right here.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
This is
and
why
you only want to fix it because of a review. That's a problem.
Yeah. That's a problem.
You only want to make it right to cover, to protect your name. You should have had that goal from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Reviews can really put people back on track, or make them stand their ground. But they shouldn't need that. They shouldn't need a bad review to do their job.
No, and you shouldn't. Like, to me, that just comes out of a place of fear, right? Like, they're afraid of the reprimanding from their manager or from corporate or whatever. So everything reactive is usually based off fear. And I'm like, people just don't like operating in that area, and I don't like being around people operating in that area.
Yes. We have lost a ton of money from day one. And a ton of money back then was $200 to make stuff right. And we've failed our way through all the way, like, oh, why is that driveway flooding? Oh, why is this sinking? Why did this happen? Like, well, I wasn't in this business before I started it. Right. I didn't have anybody at the time that I could be like, hey, how do you do this? So we go talk to the customers, and, we can do this. And then if it goes wrong, we'll be there in the morning, and we've lost a lot of money making stuff right, and not because of bad reviews, right? But because of just doing the right thing, doing what we said.
Because I want to lay my head down on that pillow tonight and be able to fall asleep comfortably.
Yes, 100%. I want that customer to have a good experience, and they've always been awesome. If you just do the right thing, like we've had, 99.9% of our clients have, they want to call us back. And the ones that we've had issues with, where it was something that was our fault, again, we solve it, and they want to use us even more than if it was right the first time. I mean, that's been our experience, because they're like, not only did he not do great work on every other thing, but this thing went wrong, and he still came back out here and made it right. And that's who we're going to go with from now on.
Yeah. You want to build customers in a super loyal fan base. Like, it's the customers that had an issue somewhere in the process, and you went above and beyond to make it right, even if it's at an expense to you. Yeah, exactly. And they will beat their chest and scream your name out to the community. Right,
because they've seen that adversity. They knew how you were when stuff, like we talked about, they knew how you were when stuff went right, but what if stuff went wrong, and what if I recommended him and he didn't do that, or whatever? Well, now they've seen that side too. So they're even more loyal than the other customers, because I've seen both sides, and he's, they do it right no matter what, even if it takes 2 times at it. So, yeah,
that's crazy, man. What's the goal for 2025 and beyond?
So we're big into the goal list. I've got a whole bunch of goals wrote down. Our growth income, it's hard to track. You got a really good accountant, so it's hard to track your net profit for what you're filing at the end of the year, because we've got so much depreciation and stuff. So it's kind of a skewed number, but we really try to track gross sales because, hopefully bottom line kind of follows with it if your margins are right. So we've got those goals, and then I try to set goals in every aspect of life that is important to me, relationships, my family, spiritually, physically, obviously financially for the business.
This is going to go, yeah. This doesn't have to be business related, man. But like when we talk about goals for 2025, like what's the number one thing that pops in your head, whether it's spiritual, financial, health, business?
Delegation and balance. And balance is something there's a guy, Tim Grover, he was a trainer for Kobe and Michael Jordan. And he talks about how balance goes away. Like if you're trying to be the absolute best, there is no balance. And I've always struggled with that, because I think it comes and goes. Like it's hard to be everything all at once. And sometimes, and my wife and family kind of understand this, sometimes it still takes what it used to take. Sometimes I'm still going to have really late nights. Sometimes I can't be there because I've got to go do this. But trying to now, the more we can delegate, the more I can be a little bit more balanced and have more time for vacation and for mental health and physical health and just having a good quality of life.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to that good old book you've been talking about, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And I'm also going to add one little more piece to that for you. In that book, Buy Back Your Time, he talks about scheduling the big things.
Yes.
Early. Right. So in January, if you want to go on vacation in September, schedule it now. Yep. Like you want to take that kids to the whatever water park in July, schedule it now. Like schedule the life and the big thing. And the big things could be family. It doesn't have to be grandeur, like wild trips. Schedule everything now. And then because work will fill in the time you give it.
Yes.
It will expand whatever time you give it. So you've got to schedule your life, and you have to you have to be diligent enough to be like, all right, we're doing this, doing that, doing this. Schedule all that. And then the other thing that I would recommend is like just set boundaries, and they're not permanent. It's not a brick wall, but like one of the guys, like he just set a boundary. He's like, I'm done working at 5 p.m. if it's a normal work day. I don't care if we got to come back and work 2 hours on a third day and it was a 2-day project. He's like, I'm not missing dinner and time with the kid. Now, if it's a 5-alarm fire, it's going to rain. And like, he was working till 11:30 at night, Tuesday night, because of the weather. Right. So it's not a brick wall where he won't work past 5, but like, it's so easy on a normal Tuesday to be like, hey, if we just stay 3 more hours.
My issue, I think I've got those systems. So we scheduled our April vacation, and then we've got one in, I think, October. And like, hey, we're doing this then. Like you said, the work will fill in around it.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing I really struggle with is those boundaries that you're talking about really get skewed because something always comes up, right? And it's always the end of the world in the moment. And when you look back, you're like, I don't even remember what job we were on.
Right.
That was,
Yeah.
And that's something I've got to...
Yeah. And then the other thing that I've really incorporated, I'm not good at it because, again, you and I are similar. It's like great ideas. Like, let's tinker with it. Let's play with it, all that. But it's got to be like the guys that talk about this, like, you've got to change from looking at everything as an opportunity and to be like, is it a distraction or an opportunity? Is it distracting me from where I need to be? And he's like, and if it's not a hell yes with conviction, then it's a hard no.
I love that book so much.
There's no middle. Okay, I guess I'll do it. Or yeah, that sounds good. Like it's got to be a hell yes or just a hard no. And like, that's just a boundary.
Yeah. And that's something, like I said, I need more discipline on that because, like our vacation in April, we've already spent we're already invested. Hey, we can't miss it. We've already, but then like the one later in the year, we're wanting to go to Branson. Well, that's just my family, just my wife and girls. And when it gets closer, we don't have a house picked out. We don't have a location. We don't have plans. And so if we're going to go that Saturday and Sunday, well, if I get a call on Thursday, I'm way too lax on that to be like, you know what, we can be there. We'll push that to next weekend. And I'm embarrassed to say we did this. I can look on my calendar and see how many times it's been moved. And that's what's sad, like we had it for October and then the next week. And then, well, we've got this job through here. I need to be there. We'll go late November. we're in February and we just moved it to October because of this vacation week, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean it this time. We're sticking with this one and we're not changing it. And then right before some major problem pops up, and it's I'm really working on, like I said, setting those boundaries of I don't care about that. We're doing this. If we were on another job, it would be no problem to stay on that job and tell that person we can't be there. Right? That's the issue for me of how come. And it's like you said, it's hard to see the forest for the trees. I'm in too deep on it on that stuff where when I'm really honest with myself and back out, I'm like, I could make it to another job if I had a job scheduled that day and that came up.
Yeah. And I'm just a firm believer too, is like, don't let other people's panic become yours, right? Like most 5-alarm fires are really 2-alarm fires. Like they just like, oh, I need this tomorrow. And then you go do it and they don't do shit with it for 2 weeks because, the other contractor can't get here until, you're like, why did I rush out here in the middle of the night?
Yes.
Like I could have done that Monday, right?
And that's spot on for the fire service too. That's obviously one thing we're trained on that's, become second nature. We don't get worked up on these calls because it's their emergency. We're here to mitigate and solve it. And it's the same thing applies to business where it's like, I'm not careless about your issue. I want to solve it, but I'm not going to freak out too. That's not going to help us. If we blast into a call in the fire service and we're freaking, oh, this is so bad. You're right. It's going to burn down. That doesn't help anybody,
Nobody.
Okay. Yeah. What's the problem? All right. What's the next step to solve it? Let's do that,
Yeah. And like for me, like if you got that trip planned on the weekend, somebody calls you on a Thursday, you just be like, hey, I am unavailable till Monday. Well, I really need it done on Friday. And I'm like, well, then I appreciate that. And I appreciate the call, but I'm not the guy for you. Like I can get to you on Monday morning, but and then if you wait long enough, they'll go, well, I guess Monday will be fine.
100%. It's that simple.
Most of the time.
But yeah, it really is. But every time, like I said, when you're in the forest, all these problems are way bigger at the time, and then when you look back, you're, like I said, I don't remember what job I was on when I moved my family vacation. My kids will remember that,
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer too in, like customers like dealing with businesses that they have a process on how they're going to do business. Like we don't modify how we do business for you. You're going to modify. This is how we do business. We're the professionals. This is what we do. And if you don't like the way we're going to handle this project, then we're not the right contractor for you.
Right. And it's going to be a rocky relationship all the way through because we're starting off. I think it's different in year one for me, when you're starting out.
100%.
Yeah. But yeah, when you can establish a company, I can't go to Walmart and negotiate over how much the loaf of bread is,
Right.
They just, so when people do that with us now, I'm like, I'm sorry, we can't. I know my numbers. This is what we've got to have. And the same with scheduling or whatever. Well, I need you here then. Okay. And so do 50 other people. And they called me before.
There's $1,000 emergency fee if you needed that bad because I got to break schedule on 7 other people.
Yeah.
Exactly. How bad do you want it, Hoss?
I'm still going to make sure that they're okay with it because it's the right thing to do, Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like, because a lot of customers, especially on the residential side, like they don't understand this work, right? They just know they have a problem. And so many contractors just say, yeah, we can do that. And they go, yeah, this, John's going to come over and fix that hole. Well, what's he going to do? I don't know. What equipment's he bringing in? I don't know. Is he going to make a mess? And he's like, I don't know. Like, they don't know anything, right? They just know that this problem's getting fixed. And if as a contractor, you can go in there and like, you can speak in normal terms and not use jargon and say, hey, here's how we do this. We'll arrive at this time. We'll make sure we're not here before 7:30 so we don't wake your kids up. We're going to put plywood down so we don't ruin the grass. And if you walk them through your process and make them feel comfortable, there's not another contractor on the planet. I mean, 90% of the time you'll win that bid because only a few people are so price conscious that they don't care about anything but the number. But if you can make them feel comfortable, like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, it all goes back to the root cause of whatever problem they have. Mm-hmm. Explain to them how you're going to solve that problem. And it's completely, like you said, the jargon is completely different if I'm talking to a GC on a commercial site versus Miss Betty who needs her yard graded or a road put in for a new home or whatever.
Different problems.
Yes, yeah. For talking to builders and general contractors versus your residential stuff, it's, they're going to understand stuff that obviously the other people don't. I don't go in there and, well, we're going to have offsets over here. We're going to bring in tandems and end dumps for, you have this issue. Here's how we're going to solve it and make it, like you said, where they can understand.
Yeah. If you're working with contractors, it's like communication, process, timeframes. Like if you can check those 3 boxes, every contractor will love you.
Yeah. Yeah. And do what you say you're going to do.
If they know how you're going to go about the job and the time frame it's going to take to do it, you're going to commit to those time frames and you're going to stay in constant communication with them so he doesn't have to wonder if you're going to be there on Thursday. Like that's his problem, is managing and wrangling how many subs.
Right. Yeah, and I try to put myself in their shoes a lot too. These different PMs and the site superintendents, where I'm like there's some of them I just feel bad for. We'll be stressed out, and then I'll look at what they're dealing with, and it goes back to, how can I help you stress a little bit less about at least me? I can't control the electricians, but what do you need from me to make this go better?
Trent, that's my favorite question. I think everyone needs to learn that. How can I help you?
Yeah. Yep. How can I solve one of your problems? You've got plenty of them. I can't hang your drywall, but how can I take one thing off your plate where that I'm gonna do it and do it right, and you ain't gonna have to worry about it.
Yep. 100%, man. Oh, well, Haas, this has been an awesome conversation.
I think it's helped me more than it's helped anybody. I love it.
Yeah, we need to change the name of this podcast to like In the Chair with Ryan, like business psychology.
Yeah. Right.
Start laying you guys down on a couch when you come in.
Yeah, with some candles and with some whiskey. There we go.
I'm in for the whiskey.
A relaxed session.
Yeah.
How to remain sane.
A little glass of Nickners and get to work, right?
Yeah. How to remain sane in business.
You got to love it. Like, if you don't love owning a business, I always tell everybody just get out, because it's a wild ride and it's not normal. My brain processes information way different than most of the people in my circle.
Yes. Elon said owning a business is like, what do you say? Eating glass and staring into the abyss. But you've got to, that's one of my favorite quotes. And then, there's so many quotes that come to mind on that, but you're exactly right.
Yeah. It's just, it's the founders of the country, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I always say that Thomas Jefferson was so damn close to saying it perfectly. It should be life, liberty, and the happiness in the pursuit. Because there is no happiness is a pursuit, dude. And I think owning a business, it's the pursuit is what we love.
Yeah. You've got to love the fight more than the destination or the process. The pursuit, like you're saying.
Well, how many times have you done something big, right, in your life, and then you actually get to the end point and you're like, shit, that's it? Like, you fell in love with the training for the bodybuilding show. You fell in love with building the car for the car show. And after the car show, you're like, well, fuck, now what am I going to do my weekends? It's the pursuit of the end goal. So the happiness is actually in the pursuit of what you're chasing. It's not in the end. There is no end goal. That's
how you get there. That's something else I'm trying to work on, is, like you said, being happy during it, because it's always what's next. Like you said, we joke about this all the time, thinking back to, plowing snow in the open cab machine, or, just all the struggles to get where we're at. But we take for granted the new machines. Like, there's a brand new one sitting in this trailer behind me with 80 hours on it. Once we got it was cool for a couple of days, and then, all right, what's next? And it's trying to kind of be happy in the, like you said, through the process, but we're still gunning. We're still what's next, and enjoying it.
I just feel like it's the hard times that are the most memorable, and that, like, after time passes, are your favorite memories, right? Like, we've been members of duck clubs where you just kind of get on an ATV, ride it out to the pit, and then you hunt, like, everything's set up. And then when we were younger, we would do a walk-in at a state property, And after you got, like, you didn't even know if you're going to get your number drawn, and you had to be there at 5 a.m. And then if you did get it drawn, it was a 1.5 mile hike with all your gear in your waders, and then you're standing in the water all day, right? When we talk about the old days of duck hunting, not one of us talks about that damn duck club. We always talk about the walk-in and the journey, and like it was just a process, and we just loved it.
Yeah. Even if you didn't at the time, it's like you said, it's the most memorable, and you look back happy. I can't remember the jobs that went well, especially in the beginning, but I can remember when, we got this dump trailer buried in a front yard and had to unload it by hand, or when, or like you said, we went on some duck hunts where it's like, I should have joined the SEALs. Like, we've been walking for 4 days, it feels like, I don't remember when we went and got a limit on that at that same location. I remember walking in there, falling asleep, standing up, wondering why in the hell I put myself in this position. But, like you said, you think back and everybody laughs, and that's why you did it.
I took a buddy out, and it was like -4 degrees with like -20 wind chills, and we were in a field pit goose hunting. And this was 15 years ago. And I can ask him today, I'm like, hey, remember that day? He's like, oh, I remember it. He goes, I go, how many geese did we shoot that day? He's like, no idea. I thought I was going to have to cut off 3 toes. They were so cold. That's what he remembers.
I got to tell this quick story. I'll try to make it as short as I can because it's a long one, but I'll shorten it. We're going duck hunting. Me, my brother, his buddies, they're all big time duck hunters. That's what they want to do in their life when we're in high school. And we're loading everything up. And I'm like, hey, you got your waders? To my buddy. He's like, yeah. I'm like, are you sure? Because we all grabbed them out of the same garage. Yeah. We get out there. I grabbed his. He didn't grab mine. So now I'm the only one with no waders. Like, everything's frozen. We're in, I don't know, waist deep ice, breaking through, trying to get where we're going. So he carries me. I'm in sweatpants and a hoodie. Shotguns, decoys, the whole thing. He carries me all the way into where we're going. Props me up on a branch that was just above the water. He drops me on the way in there. So now I'm soaked. Sub freezing temp. I don't remember how cold it was. -200 it felt like. Props me up on this tree branch. I'm in the woods. I have no shoot. Like, it was all for nothing, right? Like, I've got a gun and I'm trying to balance on this log for hours. I'm soaked. My clothes are freezing. They don't care. They're not about to carry me back out now. We just got here. Like I said, there's all coverage around me. Like, I can't shoot. I don't remember if 1 or 300 birds came in that day. I just remember needing an ambulance when I got back to the truck. And I'll never forget that. Like, I'm genuinely surprised I'm still here after that experience.
Yeah, it's always like it's the tough days or the crazy things like that make the most vivid memories in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's the process.
Yeah. So it's the happiness in the pursuit. That's my advice of the day. I need
to get that tattooed on my forehead because
it's
easy to forget. It's easy to forget in the storm, But
yeah.
That's why you're doing it. What's the point if you can't find some sort of enjoyment with it?
Yeah, everybody. I just like you see it everywhere, right? Like everyone's like, I just want to be happy, and I'm like, well, happy's in the doing. It's not the mountaintop.
Yeah, and you have to struggle. That's how you grow. That's how you accomplish anything. Have any sort of self-worth. Go through something.
I'll guarantee you, Kobe Bryant felt weird on the days he woke up and didn't go practice at 4:30 in the morning.
Yes.
Like that became his norm. That lifestyle, and that's the pursuit of greatness for him.
Yeah. That's applicable across the board to anything.
I'll guarantee you, Elon Musk smiles with ear to ear every night. He lays down on an air mattress with a blanket inside whatever building he's working in that day, and not going home. I bet he loves it.
Yeah, even if he does it that night, right? He may hate it that night, but the next morning he's happy that this is why I'm doing it.
Yeah, he loves it. So we just got to get to that love of the pursuit.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, embrace the suck. I'm like, no, you got to learn to love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's a privilege to have these problems because we're the few that own a business. It's a privilege.
Yeah, we chose it. That's what, I'll be complaining about something or trying to explain something and then make that clear. Like, hey, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining. I might be venting. I don't want empathy. I chose this. And I'm
Yep.
going to continue to choose this. This is what I love to do. I'm struggling through something right now, but at the end of the day, this is what I chose to do. This is what I want to do.
Yeah. So Trent, I don't know. I'm gonna wrap up with this last one, and I know we've been saying that for 15 minutes now, but it's a good conversation. So if you're familiar with like a sine wave, like a sound wave, they go up, down, up, down, up, down. So if when you're listening to a radio in your car and there's too much bass and you turn the bass down, it actually turns the top. In order to cut the low out, you got to cut the high out because the sine wave has to be equally high as low off the center line. It can't go like 2 inches down, 1 inch up. It has to be equal above and below the center line.
Okay.
So I call that I feel like when people mitigate risk to not have those lows. So if you don't go, if you don't start a business, if you don't go jump out of an airplane, or if you don't go hunting because you don't have your waders, you're cutting the bottom off of your life. It's like, hey, we're going to minimize what can happen negatively to us. Well, incoherently, not incoherently, that's a terrible word. At the same time, what you don't realize is you're cutting the top off of the ability to have true elated joy in your life. Because you can't cut the negative out without cutting the top off, right? So our life is kind of the same thing as a sound wave. So if we want to mitigate all risk, then we mitigate all joy.
Yeah, there's no peaks without the valleys.
You got to have the valleys in order to enjoy the peaks. So if the people that I know that mitigate that risk, I say, man, it sucks that you're living in the gray, like that gray zone in the middle, because you're never going to have the beautiful green joy, and you never get to have the experiences and the love later in life of the shitty red zone that,
God, I love that. That goes back to what I was saying.
All your growth happens in the upper and lower. The gray area is just like, everyone's got that friend that works at the post office, right? And he's just like, I go to work and then I spend my weekends in the garage and I go to work. Like everyone's got that one guy. Like that dude's living in the gray.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I have to remind myself of in those lows of it could be worse. It could be normal. And as bad as that sounds,
Yeah, man, that living in the gray reminds me of purgatory. Whew.
Yeah. That's hell to me. Average and just normal and just I'm going to be here for however long and then die and never accomplish anything. That's where the let's go fail at something comes from. Like let's go do something.
I'm not
big.
exceptional, right? I'm just vulnerable enough to put myself out there to allow the experiences to happen. That's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing fancy about either one of us other than we just hey, we're vulnerable enough to say, yeah, it failed, but whatever.
Yeah. I have the same result as the person who didn't do it. Except for
guess who bitches? Guess who makes fun of me when it fails? The people that never tried it.
Yeah, exactly. And we have the same result. So how did they do better?
Because if you failed at something, if you failed at something and called me or your buddy Trebo, we'd be like, "What'd you learn from it?" Right? What's the takeaway? We wouldn't be like, "Oh, you're an idiot. Why would you try something like that? You're stupid." No.
Yeah. Now do something with that. He tells a story about losing $30,000 on a job, and he went to one of his mentors and was kind of crying to him about it. And he said, "Well, I bet you won't do that again." It's like, okay, well, you're right. What do we do now? Mourn on that for a day or two or three or whatever it takes. And I've been in this boat where I've got to stop and say, is this worth it? And be genuine with myself. Like in those lowest of lows, I've mourned whatever happened, I've processed whatever went wrong. And then, okay, now that's over, do we move forward or do we stop? And it's always been an easy decision. I'm like, well, I'm not stopping. So I guess take that, learn, and let's go do it again.
Yeah. And I lost $30,000. Good. Because 2 years ago, I wasn't even doing $30,000 projects. Now I'm doing projects that I could lose 30,000. Good. I'm growing. Good.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we could lose on one project 15 times what we grossed in year one, literally.
Right.
That nest egg I thought I had in an account won't put a down payment on the trucking on this project. This is where I wanted to be. I have to remind myself of that. I dreamt of this. I guess I forgot about the downsides. This is where we wanted to be. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, as you scale up the ladder, it doesn't make problems go away. It actually makes new problems, but they're larger.
Yes.
You
Trey
know, it goes from
reminds
a
me of that all the
$200
time.
problem when you owned a lawn business to now a $20,000 problem with
Yep.
excavation equipment.
Yep. It's the same exact game with zeros on both ends, and you can't try to run from it. You ain't
Nope.
gonna get anywhere.
Nope. Oh man, Trent, thanks so much for taking time out of your day and sitting with us in shit. How do you pronounce your town again? Uwala?
Oolaga.
Oolaga. I made that sound once on a Saturday night in college. Oolaga.
Yeah, I had to clean it up.
Guys, if you want to check out Trent and Blue Collar Contractors, we'll put a link to his business, his Facebook page, maybe his website in the show notes. If you enjoyed this conversation, I push you to either reach out to myself or Trent. Tell us thanks for being on the show. Actually, you know what? Reach out to Trent. I love it better when the guests get reached out to. So my buddy Eric was the first episode ever. If you go back to the beginning, he's the police officer in North Carolina. That dude still gets messages like once a month from people that have listened to his episodes. I love it.
That's so awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Hopefully my failures can help somebody.
This is how we grow and learn right here, man, by being vulnerable enough to show that, you know, the chinks in the armor, the growth, the mishaps, and then share the processes of how we adapted to overcome so we could grow. And people that are actually listening out there, and like you're cutting months or years off of your journey. Like, don't struggle for 5 years, struggle for 3, and implement things you learn from people along the way to take that learning curve and shrink it.
That's it.
So, but you got to go through it. You still got to go through the shit. Like, you have to. There's no getting
there's
around
no skipping that. There's no skipping that.
But we don't want to go through it over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, guys, be good. And we'll see you guys next week. Check out skidsteernation.com for your next skid steer attachment. Spring is among us. Get ready to make that money, guys. Take care.